Hello, my name is Cameron Swetner, and for my Lest We Forget project, I chose Ella Fitzgerald. I chose her because I was always hearing her name, but I didn't know very much about her, and I wanted to learn more. Over the course of my research, I've learned very much, and I realize now that she was a very interesting person. And more people should know about her story. I know that a lot of people today have never even heard of the First Lady of Song, and I'm looking to change that. Again, my name is Cameron Swetner, and I am a junior at Miles High School. I'm taking the History 1302 class with Howard College. This is me. Just kidding. That was me, though. Here's a picture of me, and there's a picture of my dog just because I had some extra room. All of my information for my presentation today came from Ella, a biography of the legendary Ella Fitzgerald by Jeffrey Mark. This is what I'm going to be talking about today. We'll start off with her backstory. Ella Jane Fitzgerald was born on April 25, 1917 in Virginia. Not long after she was born, her parents went separate ways and Ella stayed with her mother Temperance, or Tempy. They went to New York and eventually moved in with Tempy's boyfriend Joseph De Silva. That was found on page 80 of my book. She was a tomboy and liked to play sports with the kids in her neighborhood. Her mother died in 1932 from injuries that she suffered in a car accident. Not long after, Ella started getting sexually abused by Joseph. After that, her aunt took her in, and Ella became miserable and ran away. Eventually, the police caught up with her, and she was sent to the New York State Training School for Girls, where she stayed for an unknown amount of time. In the biography, it says her life became a living nightmare. This disgrace of a girls' home was completely segregated. Children of color, who were often sent there for causes no worse than running away or skipping school, were dressed in rags and given half of what the white girls were given to eat. She, like other black girls forced to live there, was regulated to a broken-down building. She was also beaten at regular intervals by the guards and male employees. That was found on page 81 of the book. This is a picture of her mother, and I couldn't find any pictures of Ella when she was young. Next, we will talk about the start of her career. Ella started her success after she went back to live with her aunt. Her name was drawn in a weekly drawing at the Apollo, and she was allowed to compete in amateur night. She had planned a dance, but her nerves got the best of her, and when she got on stage, she sang instead. That was page 83. The crowd demanded an encore, and she won first place. She called this the turning point in her career. After competing in another talent show, she was asked to travel with a band, which began her career. In 1936, she released her first album. Then in 1938, she released her version of A Tisket, a Tasket, and sold 1 million copies. Suddenly, she was famous. This song stayed at number 1 for 17 weeks. Then her mentor, Chick Webb, died, and his band, which was the band she traveled with, was renamed Ella Fitzgerald and Her Famous Band. She then got married and annulled her marriage with Benny Cornegay within a year. Next, I'm going to talk about why she was just like us, but here's a quote from her that was found in the beginning of the book. It isn't where you come from, it's where you're going that counts. And I think this is very important in her story because she started off with a hard life and then got to where she was, to where everyone knows her name. Now I will talk about why she was supremely human. Ella faced a lot of hardships in her time, from losing her mother and having an abusive stepfather to discrimination in her career. She faced problems that are still happening today. There are people around the world who can relate to her because she was so much like us. Most people think of celebrities as supreme beings, but Ella showed us that she wasn't afraid to be different or normal. Ella had a rough childhood, and she was a better person for it. She grew into a huge success basically by herself with maybe a mentor or two, and she is still a name that is remembered around the world. Now, to finish up my presentation, I'm going to talk about her legacy and how we can remember her today. Today, she is remembered through her music. She recorded with Louis Armstrong and was really good friends with Marilyn Monroe. That was page 275. Most people don't know that because Marilyn Monroe was white, and typically when people think back to this age, they think that they were so separate that they didn't even communicate with each other. She was also awarded with the National Medal of Arts by President Ronald Reagan. Later in her life, she had to undergo coronary bypass surgery and her career ended, but she still left quite a mark on the world. She died on June 15, 1996, in her home in Beverly Hills. She was honored all around the world with white roses. That was page 375. To remember her better, we need to think about all the discrimination that she went through and fought. Even with all of this, she was still very famous, and she never let it bother her, at least not in the public presence. We need to continue to listen to her music and teach others about her importance to our culture. She helped shape the music industry, especially jazz, into what it is now. Here's my source for my book, Ella, A Biography of the Legendary Ella Fitzgerald by Mark Jeffrey. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned a lot about Ella Fitzgerald.